إن الله ربي وربكم فاعبدوه هذا صراط مستقيم.
Our very esteemed viewers, Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of Allah be on you all. I welcome you to our program, Truth Unveiled, and today we are going to discuss Jesus in India. With me in the studios, I have two distinguished scholars from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Uganda. I have Sheikh Israel Lutariga, is the regional missionary of Kampala region. Can you say salam to our viewers?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I also have Sheikh Faisal Chiemba, who is the officer in charge of the Ahmadiyya Annual Convention. Sheikh, can you say salam to our viewers?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Gentlemen, you are very much welcome. Like I said, today we are going to discuss Jesus' journey, amazing journey I should call it, to India. It sounds surprising. How does Jesus get into India? Gentlemen, this is what our viewers would like to understand today. Sheikh Israel, the view that the Christians have is that Jesus was put on the cross, died from there, was got off, put in a tomb, resurrected after 3 days, moved around, after 40 days, ascended to heaven. And up to now, he's still there. Whereas other Muslims, I do not know what your version is, you are going to give it to us, say that according to the Quran, chapter 4, verses 157 to 158, Jesus wasn't even put on the cross. He was lifted physically with his body, taken to heaven. Instead, another person who appeared like him was put on the cross. Our viewers and I would like to know, is that the version that you also have?
Thank you very much. To answer your question, I would like, first of all, to start with the words of the holy founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. His book, Jesus in India, is a groundbreaking and epoch-making book. I'll just say some of his words, many words, as a quotation from this very important book. He says, I shall try to prove in this book that Jesus did not die on the cross, nor did he go up in the heavens, nor should it be supposed that he would ever come down to earth. The fact of the matter is that he died at the age of 120 years at Srinagar, where his tomb is still to be found in Haniara district in Kashmir, India. So these are the very words of the holy founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salatu wasalam. So with these words, I wish to open this very important discussion.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Israel. In your submission, according to the book you have quoted, you say Jesus did not die on the cross. He didn't resurrect, and therefore did not ascend to heaven. Sheikh Faiz, I come to you. If Jesus did not die on the cross, and therefore wasn't buried, and therefore would not resurrect, and therefore would not ascend to heaven, where is he? What became of him?
That's a very interesting question. And my brother here has thrown light on it in a very befitting manner, because he has read out the words that were penned by the holy founder of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, the respected Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who was born in a very remote and tiny town in the northern part of India, Kadian. The answer to your question, if I may recall, is what happened of him if Jesus Christ
Did not ascend to
did
heaven.
not, first of all, die on the cross, rise from the dead, and ascend to heaven. Obviously, that is a natural question that will arise. Where did he go? So in tracing the footsteps of Jesus Christ, leading us to where he could have gone, I will start with the gospel according to Matthew and the gospel according to Mark. These two gospels will give us a lead which will help us to trace the footsteps of Jesus Christ from Jerusalem, from that area where the incident of crucifixion took place, and then these footsteps will take us at least to that northern town of Israel known as Galilee or Galilee. Galilee is approximately 114 kilometers from Jerusalem. So these two gospels tell us that after the incident of crucifixion, it was the women that went to the tomb, the cave-like tomb of Jesus Christ, to find out about the whereabouts of their master. On reaching there, they find an empty tomb, they find a missing body, and they are told to go and tell the other disciples that there is an appointment. Jesus wants them to meet in Galilee, which is 114 kilometers from Jerusalem. So the journey of Jesus Christ starts from here. He travels to Galilee to meet his disciples via Emmaus, where he has a stopover, spends a night with some of his disciples, share a meal with them, eats bread, eats honey, eats fish, and tells the doubting Thomas that he's not a ghost, he's not a spirit. He shows Thomas, his disciple, that these are the palms of my hands. This is where the nails were nailed. And Paul is not satisfied by that answer. He says, lift your garment and I see that mark or the place where they pricked you, where they pierced you. So the journey of Jesus Christ starts from Jerusalem. It takes him to Galilee, where he meets his disciples, with a stopover, which I told you, where he spends a night in Emmaus. But all this is done in a very strange way, in a way which shows that Jesus is disguising himself. He's hiding from the authorities. He's disguising as a gardener, because when Mary Magdalene came to the tomb, he mistook him to be a gardener. He travels incognito. On his way to Galilee, he finds his disciples. They fail to recognize him. It is only after reaching Galilee that they realize that this is Jesus Christ. So, my contention is that they reach Galilee, which is 114 kilometers, And the journey of Jesus Christ starts from here.
Our dear viewers, Truth Unveiled is the program, and we are discussing Jesus' amazing journey to India. You can reach us on our email, africa@mta.tv. Sheikh Faiz, quoting Matthew 28, chapter, verse 18. Jesus came and told his disciples, listen to me, I've been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Doesn't this sum up the mission of Jesus Christ? Bearing in mind that he was commissioned to come in his life ministry, serve, which he did in his 3-year, mission. He goes away. Is there any need of Jesus Christ again moving away? For what?
Jesus Christ himself explained to his audience at that time what his mission was. He made it very clear, crystal clear, that I have been sent to the 12 tribes of the house of Israel. And he didn't stop there. He made it clearer. He instructed his 12 disciples, gave them strict instructions and directives that do not go to the Gentiles, do not go to the Samaritans. I have been sent to the 12 tribes of the house of Israel. That is the mission of Jesus Christ as explained by himself. If you quote that verse, which appears, is it the last verse?
Yeah,
in the Gospel according to Matthew?
Yes.
The only meaning that would come out of that verse is that he was instructing his disciples to go and convey the message to those tribes of Israel that were not present when he was commissioned as a prophet of God, as a messenger of God at the time he appeared. You understand?
I understand.
So, Jesus' mission is very clear. Now, we have what has come to be known as the lost tribes of Israel. Why do they call them the lost tribes of Israel? Because they were exiled. They had to go into exile. They migrated from their homeland and got scattered in foreign lands. That is a historical fact that you cannot deny. If you open the pages of history and you study the history of the Assyrians, and then you study the history of the Babylonians, then you also study the history of the Persians, you will get to know who were the 10 lost tribes of Israel. The king of the Assyrians expelled the Jews, the Israelites, from their homeland when he attacked the land of Israel. The Babylonians came and ousted the Assyrians. In that process, the Jews got scattered in foreign lands. You remember when Nebuchadnezzar came to the Holy Land, he destroyed the temple. That is a historical fact. and he took many captives, the Israelites, out of their country. Then the Babylonians were ousted again by the Persians. And King Cyrus, it is on record, is that king who made it possible for some of the Jews that had scattered and gone into exile to come back. He actually helped them to build and restore the temple. So, when a
Sheikh
topic,
Faisal,
when a topic like
just a moment.
yes, please,
Some of the Jews came back. You're
Yeah.
saying King Cyrus
King Cyrus, the king of the
Arranged.
Persians,
arranged for their coming back.
yeah,
Not all. Because I'm imagining, is there any need again? Because if the Jews have come back, was there any need again for Jesus to go out and reach out to them?
not all of them came back, because we have evidence from the Bible. This time I'm going to quote from the Old Testament. If you open the book of Esther, you will find a story of King Ahasuerus. This king was a Persian king who actually succeeded King Cyrus. The story is very long, but in the very first chapter of that book, mention of the kingdom of that Persian king is made. And it is said that his kingdom stretched from India to Ethiopia. Can you mark that? The word India is in the Old Testament. And that kingdom had 127 provinces. And proof, sufficient proof, enough proof is also to be found in that very book, whereby the Jews that had scattered from their homeland were all over the kingdom of that Persian king. The story is very long, but due to the limitations imposed by the time factor, maybe I may not be able to go into that detail. But the gist of the matter is that Cyrus helped some of the Jews to come back to their homeland, but not all of them came back, because the king that succeeded Cyrus, the king whose kingdom stretched from India to Ethiopia, had 127 provinces, and the Jews were scattered there. The story of Esther is that courageous girl who helped the Jews when they were going to be exterminated to be spared. And that day is always commemorated in the Jewish tradition. It is called the festival of Purim. So the Jews were scattered in the foreign land.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Faisal. We are discussing Jesus in India. I have two scholars from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Sheikh Israel, you said Jesus blessed his disciples.
Indeed.
Thereafter parted from them. And those are the words you used?
Yes.
Somewhere you said that the present day Bible is wanting somewhere. That's why I want to capitalize.
Yes.
Some of what is indicated there is a later addition. You quoted, is it Sinaiticus or
Yeah, Sinaiticus and
the authentic versions of the Bible?
yes.
The credible according
The
to you.
authentic manuscripts upon which they depended to produce the present Bible.
The present Bible states the parting meant there is he went to heaven.
Okay.
Or what is your view?
Now, as you've heard my partner, he explained very clearly that when you want to trace the lost tribes of the house of Israel, you have to look at that diaspora stretching right from Ethiopia to India. Now, because Jesus was a prophet of God, and his mission was to look for the 12 tribes of Israel. At the event of crucifixion, he had only covered only 2 tribes. So the 10 tribes were still to be looked for. Now, when you go in the book of Acts, chapter 9, we find the following. And as he was approaching Damascus,
You were talking of
Jesus,
Paul?
yeah, I'm talking about Paul, one of the, as he was approaching Damascus on this mission, a light from heaven suddenly shone down around him, around Paul. He fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? What you should remember, that at the time of crucifixion, Saul had not yet converted to Christianity. So he was among the adversaries of Jesus Christ. So that's why he addressed him that, why are you persecuting me? Then Saul went ahead to say, who are you, Lord? Saul asked, and the voice replied, I'm Jesus, the one you are persecuting. Now, the purpose of quoting this verse is to prove to you that Jesus was fulfilling his mission. He had traveled as far as Damascus. You remember that he started his journey from Jerusalem. Immediately after coming out of the tomb, he started his journey from Jerusalem to Galilee, and he went ahead to Damascus. We are just proving to you that indeed the journey to India is a fact.
Yeah, maybe if I can add on that.
All right.
What my colleague is trying to explain to you, he has brought forward an interesting bit of this discussion. This is a quotation that talks about St. Paul, obviously. And he's trying to say that he's actually asking the viewers, is this a vision or it was a physical encounter between Jesus and Paul? And where? In Damascus, Syria.
This is exactly where I want to start from. A voice came from where?
A voice came.
Saul hears a voice.
Yeah.
It came from heaven,
From heaven.
according to the
according
quotation.
Don't you think this confirms the Christian version that Jesus is in heaven already? A voice comes from heaven calling, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? You see?
Yeah, it can be a vision. It can also be a physical encounter,
Before you
which
respond to your
throws
face.
more light that somehow, somewhere, Paul and Jesus met somewhere near Damascus.
Yes.
So Jesus is now migrating from Israel, going outside of that country. Prophets do migrate. The Holy Prophet was persecuted in Mecca, and he migrated to Medina. Moses was persecuted in Egypt, and he left Egypt for the land, for the promised land. It is not unusual for prophets and messengers of God to migrate.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Faisal. Damascus is in Syria.
Yes.
Jesus has moved as far as Syria, Sheikh Faisal. Where is he going? Where do we see him heading hereafter?
To understand, as I said, to be able to trace the footsteps, the post-crucifixion footsteps, we first have to understand the mission of Jesus Christ. The other bit I explained was just an iceberg of his mission. He makes his mission very more clearer. He says in the Bible that, and I have other sheep that are not of this fold. These words are in the gospel according to John. And I have other sheep that are not of this fold. He is referring to the 10 lost tribes of Israel. He goes ahead and says, I must bring them also. That is his mission. If he dies, if he is crucified on the cross and dies, and before he has brought these 10 tribes of the house of Israel, so that they will listen to my voice, then he has failed in his mission. He has failed in his mission. So he's emphasizing here that I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. He ends his words by saying, so there will be one flock and one shepherd. So Jesus has to look for these 10 lost tribes of Israel. And his journey takes him not only to Syria or Damascus, to be very particular, but he leaves that place and goes ahead. Where does he go? He goes to the southeastern part of Turkey, in a town which is now called Urfa, but in those ancient times it was known as Nasibain or Nasibas, but now it is called Urfa. There is, as I told you, there are footmarks, there are footprints of the journey of Jesus Christ that can help us trace where he passed. In Turkey, in that town, there is a book that has been written by a scholar, a Persian scholar, by the name of Mir Muhammad bin Hawand. He wrote it in the year 1417 AD. The name of the book is called Rawzatu Safa. Rawzatu Safa means the garden of purity. And it talks about prophets, it talks about kings, it talks about successors or caliphs. In that book, there is an interesting quotation, which if allowed, I will be able to read it
Briefly.
to you. The quotation says that Jesus journeyed from his country and he arrived at Urfa. With him were a few of his disciples whom he sent into the city to preach. There were unfounded rumors about Jesus and his mother, so the governor of the city arrested the disciples and summoned Jesus. Jesus miraculously healed some persons and performed other miracles. The king of that territory, with all his army and all his people, became followers of Jesus. Jesus is now in the southeastern part of Turkey, about 450 kilometers from Jerusalem.
Sheikh Israel,
Yes.
where is he going? Where does he head?
Now there is one renowned explorer by the names Michael Buck. Now, during one of his expeditions in search of knowledge, and he stopped in Herat. This is found in Afghanistan, Western Afghanistan to be particular. There he came across a community calling themselves Christian Muslims.
What? Christian Muslims?
Christian Muslims. And these were in thousands. He was perturbed, he could not believe it. These people had a leader known as Abba Yahya. Okay, and they were referring to him as Father John. Now, when this explorer talked to their leader, he explained everything, and he said that they are very sure and confident that they trace their genealogy to Jesus. He could not believe it. So on his return to the Western world, he compiled a book, and the Sunday Telegraph, when the Sunday Telegraph was making a review of his book, they published the findings of Mr. Mike Buck in this renowned newspaper.
Sheikh Israel, on account of time, I'll have to cut you short.
Yes.
Sheikh Faisal, is Jesus already in India? I would like you, in your, can be a concluding remark because we have run short of time. Is he already in India?
Not yet. He hasn't gotten to India.
Because we are
But
tracking Jesus.
he's almost there. Because immediately he leaves Afghanistan, then he continues his journey, which takes him to what is called Pakistan now. Pakistan and India, where, these two countries were one country. It was after 1947 that they became
separated.
different countries. So he is now in Pakistan, in a small town which is called Taxila. This town is not very far, for your information, from another town that has earned its name in remembrance of the mother of Jesus Christ. And the name of that town is Mary. Mary is the same as Mary. So he is there, and we get this information basing on an account that is mentioned in one of the apocryphal Gospels of Saint Thomas. Remember Saint Thomas, the doubtful Thomas, followed his master, and he is even buried in India, for your information. The tomb of Saint Thomas,
Is in India.
who was one of the disciples of Jesus Christ, is in India, in a town which used to be called Madras. Now it is called Chennai. And John Paul,
John Paul
the second, in February 1986, visited the tomb of Saint Thomas in India. That is on record.
Chef Faisal, we have run short of time. I'm very sorry. It is an interesting topic, but we shall have to stop it here. Our viewers, Truth Unveiled, we have been discussing the journey of Jesus to India. You can reach us on africa@mta.tv. I've had two distinguished scholars from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Uganda. Gentlemen, your concluding remarks in a sentence, just.
As you've heard, there is no scintilla of doubt in what we have said, that indeed Jesus Christ never went to heaven, but he had to look for the other 10 tribes. That's why he had to travel all the way from Jerusalem to Kashmir.
India. Chef Faisal, your concluding remarks.
I will conclude our discussion today with the words of the Holy Quran, which are found in Surah Al-Mu'minun. The Holy Quran says that وَآوَيْنَاهُمَا, that we gave refuge to Jesus and his mother. We gave them refuge, to both of them, in an elevated land of green valleys, which had springs flowing with water. And I will also conclude this discussion with the words of the promised Messiah, because in his groundbreaking and epoch-making book, Jesus in India, which incidentally is the topic of our discussion, he has made it clear that Jesus Christ lived up to the age of 120 years. He is buried in Kashmir, and his tomb is to be found in that very city. So in one of his books, which is called Lecture Ludhiana, the promised Messiah, the Imam Mahdi, and the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, says in unmistakable terms that the plain truth is that Jesus, may peace be upon him, is dead. And I swear by God that I am the promised one who was to appear.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for honoring our invitation. To our viewers, I've been your host, Abubakar Mugaya. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum.
إن الله ربي وربكم فاعبدوه هذا صراط مستقيم